Right, so I've got this toe board here, which I'm going to be repairing from a friend of mine. So I'm just going to be documenting it, show you what it looks like.
Yeah, so we can see the damage here. It's about a 4-inch crack right through the carbon, so all the way through the carbon. So it was moving up and down. This is a 20-liter Armstrong foil board. These are great boards. Yeah, so to start off with, we are going to just really clean up this area, strip it back to the barest of epoxy. So I'm going to start off with my oscillating sander here and some 40 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to take off all of the surface material that I can, including any coatings, etc. I want to get down as close as I can to the carbon, so I want to be seeing some black carbon dust if possible, and I want to get all the white paint off. And I'm using the oscillating tool to really get in there and see what I can of the foam underneath. So I'm attacking with my box cutter, trying to see the foam, and I can see that there really isn't much damage to the interior foam here, so I can go ahead with the rest of my clearing. And this hair dryer is going to let me pull off this pad. I'm going to try to do as little damage to the pad as I can and really keep it in good shape so I can stick it back down at the end. So I've cleared enough here for about 2 to 3 centimeters so that I can have plenty of space for my carbon and epoxy. And I'm just going to sand off any of the goop and the extra space here now that I've cleared it. So you can see I've cleared up plenty of space here to stick my carbon fiber and epoxy to. And I just need to make a template. I use paper towel. I'm going to make, in this case, I'm making 3 templates for the carbon, but I didn't really realize how thick the carbon was. I'm only going to use 2 templates finally because of how thick the carbon fiber actually is.
For the templates for carbon fiber, so it's going to go like that.
All right, it's time to make your microbubble and epoxy filler. This is if you have damage to the interior foam, you can fill it with this stuff. Now the trick with this is to know that the microbubbles really don't take a lot of epoxy to thicken. You really want a peanut buttery texture. And here I'm putting in what I think is about the right amount. But actually this is too thin, so I'm going to need to add some micro bubbles to thicken it up a bit. And this is about the consistency that we want. You can see it looks kind of like peanut butter.
Don't overmix it because as you mix it, I think my understanding is you're kind of popping the bubbles. You want this to be.
So I'm going to really abbreviate the filling in of this crack, but basically you want it to be a little bit proud of the rest of the surface. So you want it to stick out a little bit. It sands off very easily, which is what we're going to do in the next step after we finish filling it and after it dries.
Just like it was. We want to keep that shape as, you know.
And funny story, this is actually a time lapse, but not 24 hours. So we're back to sanding it. I'm using 40 grit again, and I just want it to be as smooth as I can. I want the entire surface to be as uniform as possible. And because I made the area bigger, I'm remeasuring my biggest template. So in the end, I really only cut out 2 of the templates because of how thick this carbon fiber was. I remember it being thinner, which is why I made 3 in the first place, but actually I only ended up needing the medium and the large cut out. And I'm just cleaning everything here with some isopropyl alcohol to prepare. Epoxy time! So this is the same West System 105 that I used for the microbubble stuff. You can use this for anything really, it's just your standard epoxy. I'm going to paint it on the board first. And I'm just going to soak the carbon fiber and brush it on both sides, and then I'm going to lay it onto the board over where I've painted it. Same thing with the second piece, the larger piece here. I'm soaking it with the epoxy, and then I'm going to lay it over the first piece as nicely as I can. And so AI told me that I should use electrical tape instead of using saran wrap, which is what I would usually use to flatten this thing. I thought, hey, why not give it a try? Well, we'll see how it goes, how it turns out. It wasn't that easy laying the electrical tape on without moving the carbon fiber, but in the end of the day, I managed it. I would say go in the shorter direction first next time. So whereas I went horizontally here, I think next time I would probably start vertically and just sand out any kind of ledges that I got. Still, this worked out just fine. Here we are, following day, and let's see what happens. Oh, yeah. It's looking good. So I'm just going to give it another pretty heavy sanding here. This is 80 grit to get the ledges off, especially around where the edges of the tape were. There were a lot of bumps and stuff like that. So I'm just taking the ledges off and then I'm spraying it down to see how it looks. And pretty much right away, I can fill it with UV Cure epoxy. This is not the same thing as UV Cure resin. This is epoxy, which cures in the sun. So here it is. It's already cured. This is probably 10 minutes later. And I'm already able to sand it down. This is to fill the larger voids that were left by the electrical tape method that I used. And this should be the final batch of epoxy. So I'm giving everything a little hot coat because I could see that there was some carbon fiber showing and I want everything to be thoroughly saturated. So I'm just gonna hot coat this as best I can with the brush. I really only wanted to do a light sand, but I could see my hot coat wasn't that great, especially at the edges, so I ended up whacking out the electric sander and just getting rid of the ledges mostly and doing a very light sand elsewhere. So I'm just going to use a 400 grit now just to make it a little bit smoother, and this is what I'm going to be painting on. So I need to mask off pretty much everything that I don't want to clear coat. So I'm going to be masking off the pad and the majority of the board here. And now the fun part. So I'm just going to clean everything up a little bit with some alcohol again in preparation for the clear coat. So now I'm just going to give it a light sand before I put the white paint over the clear coat. This is the next day. So I am going to mask off the black stripe down the middle and pretty much anything else I don't want to be white. So I really just want to be showing a tiny little bit of area that's already white plus the black part that I want to be white now. So the masking is looking pretty tight. And it's time for the white paint. And even though I cleared the nozzle, you can see that for some reason this paint still blotched, came out with these big clumps. You can see them on the left there. It's not a big deal, you just have to sand it off at the end. And I pretty much just let the paint dry for a minute or two before I pull the masking tape off. I find that it comes off a lot better if it's not dry. Otherwise it tends to stick to the tape and then it kind of rips away from the surface. But as you can see, we're looking really good. We're basically almost done. We just got to glue down that pad and maybe sand off those little lumps of white. I can't find the video of me painting on this rubber cement anywhere, but here it is. I had already painted it on, and now I'm just taping it down. So I'm going to be using this 400 grit on a sanding block. It's really important that you're on a sanding block so you don't scrape everything off. I'm just going to take those little white lumps I was talking about out of the white paint. So the little black marks you see are just stuff that was on the sandpaper. They're not really going through the white paint or anything. I'm going to finish up here with some 1000 wet and some 3000 also wet. And I'm just going to rub that all over the board to kind of try to match the patina of the rest of the board. And then we're just going to give it a final cleaning with a magic eraser and a microfiber cloth just to get rid of all the dust and stuff that kind of collected on it. All right, this is early morning Dan, and I am showing off the finished board, which looks, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's pretty good. You can see the shots here. And what I will say is that the white paint for me is always the thing that never looks quite right. And it's really a pain dealing with that white paint. So I often recommend not painting the board unless you really are. I think actually the cosmetics of not painting a board white or not painting a board the way it was actually looks better, so you kind of show your scars of the board. And for me, I think that works better. I'll show you here a nose. When I repaired my nose, this area of my board, I'll show you how that looked and I chose not to paint that. I think it almost looks like fire stripes or something like on a car that you might see. So I personally wouldn't do that. I asked him, "Oh, do you care if it's painted or not?" He said he didn't care. But I figured for the position where this damage was, it kind of looks maybe a little better painted. So even though it's imperfect, and even though the white paint shows off, kind of transitions, and it's a little bumpy, it's the white paint's really a pain to deal with. It takes 24 to 48 hours to cure fully. You can't really clear coat on top of it. So, and you have to make sure that the surface is really well prepped. And for some reason, it kept spitting out little blobs. But anyway, I'm happy with the repair. It's done. Call my buddy up, tell him to come pick it up. Anyway, hope you enjoyed watching that. If you guys have any critiques or comments, let me know. Let me know what you think. This isn't my first board repair. I really love these Armstrong boards, and I love repairing them. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Probably the next video is actually going to be me fixing up an old espresso machine, getting it back to getting it back not just to working order, but something that I can turn over and sell again on the other side. It's a gadget. I've repaired a bunch of coffee machines, and something I just really enjoy doing it. I like the mixture of tech and kind of physics in these things. So anyway, I look forward to showing off that build. See you in the next one, guys. Make sure that if you want to watch, this is just the first video on this channel, but I'm going to be doing a bunch of random videos about winging and coffee machines and philosophy and all sorts of good stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you subscribe and stick around. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.